What's up? I'm Allie and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing my, what month was it? April wrap-up. April flew by. I swear it was like May, the day before May, and I was like, what is everyone talking about? We got 2 weeks till May. We had one day. We had 7 hours at that point. I did read 10 things in April. I haven't been reading as much, I guess, just because Animal Crossing. So let's go ahead and get into the wrap up. First thing that I read for the month was actually a buddy read with Amanda and Vanessa, and we read Well Met. Basically, we were all looking for something kind of easy. We were all into romance at the time, and I was like, hey, I have this from the library, let's read it. So this is a dislike to love relationship. I guess you could sort of categorize it as a little bit of fake dating as well, but it takes place at a Renaissance festival. Our main character has come to live with her sister. Her sister was in an accident to help take care of her niece, and so one of the things that her niece wants to do is sign up for the Renaissance Festival. So she gets dragged into it as well, and the guy who kind of manages it is a pain in the butt, and she just like can't stand him. However, he has an alter ego that he gets into at the Renaissance Festival, and he is very flirty with her. They have really good banter, and then she starts kind of confusing, you know, is this character and him the same person, and why do I have feelings for both of them? I couldn't stop reading once I had picked it up, and overall it was just a good time. I don't think anything stuck out to me as something that I necessarily took points off for, just that the storyline was fun, but again, not like my favorite couple of all time. Giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. Enjoyable read, would highly recommend during this time if you're looking for something fun and simple. Then I picked up Spectacle Volume 2. Spectacle Volume 1 quickly became one of my favorite graphic novels. It's about twins who are in a traveling circus, and one of the twins is murdered and is a ghost, and she is interacting with her still alive twin, and they are trying to solve this all while there are all these other crazy things happening. And I love the artwork in this. It's so unusual and just fun and crazy, and I just really enjoy this. The second one didn't bring us any closer to figuring out who the heck done did the murder, and there's all these other weird things happening, and honestly I just didn't feel like it was as needed or necessary to this timeline. So I am giving this 4 stars. It was fun. It's still great. I love the artwork. I love the story, but this one just wasn't as good as the first one. Then I read oh my god, my tongue just was like, that word ain't happening. Fortuna Sworn, and this is a more smutty, I guess, fantasy, more erotic fantasy, although I don't want to say it's outright erotic because some of the descriptions in it were a little bit on that page, but not really. Anyway. About a girl whose brother has been missing for 2 years, and basically she has this very special power, very rare power, but she ends up in a tricky situation where she gets a lead about her brother, but in order to do that, she has to get into an arranged marriage with this fae. He will lead her to her brother. Of course, things aren't quite what they seem, and this fae is more than he seems, and things get crazy from there. She goes to the fae world to find her brother, and it's just not at all what she was expecting. She wasn't prepared, and there are trials. There is a very gruesome world. This thing shies away from like nothing. There's all kinds of trigger warnings for abuse, animal abuse, murder, gore, like anything you can think of. It got a trigger warning in there, just letting you know. It's just a really quick paced read and something that I could sit down, and I felt like I honestly didn't have to focus that much on it for it being a fantasy, and it was good. The writing is not the best. It definitely has some issues. There's definitely some things that I was just like, I don't know if we needed to include this in the storyline. So 3.5 there. I don't know, like the chemistry between the characters just kind of came out of nowhere, and there was just some little iffy things that I just didn't like, but I am going to continue on with the series, but that one is a 3.5. I have 8 perfect murders, and this was a mess for me to read because I downloaded it on Hoopla, and at some point Hoopla skipped like 3 whole chapters, and I got to the end and I was so damn confused because I didn't know who these characters were. I didn't know how they played into it. It was mentioning events that I had no recollection of, and I was like, normally, you know, sometimes I forget things, but I don't think it's this bad. So I ended up going back and just kind of like skimming it, and I texted my coworker because she was reading it at the same time as me, and I was like, who are these people? And she was explaining it to me, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go back. So I ended up going back, finding the chapters that I missed, and rereading those. I don't know what happened. It was weird. So this is basically about this guy who runs this bookstore, and years ago he made this list, and it was called 8 Perfect Murders, and it was about books that had the most perfect murders and then basically the most unsolvable murders. And he made a list, and an FBI agent is at his doorstep going, someone is recreating the murders from your list. And there's all kinds of other things going on. There's things in his past, there's things in this like agent's past, there's like small town problems going on. So there was a lot to unfold here, and it was just, oh, it was a wild ride, friends. I did end up giving it 3.5 just because there were a lot of things, since it was about like unsolvable crimes, and there was a lot of things happening, and I was like, that easily could have been solved with DNA testing. Like, there was all kinds of things that I was just like, you can't leave that at a crime scene, you can't leave that at a crime, like just weird little things that I just didn't totally buy into. So I don't think it was the most well-written kind of mystery, but the other things that are going on are absolutely crazy. So then we have The Upside of Falling, and I just picked this up on a whim, just something easy to listen to, and I listened to it in all one day. It was good. It was an enjoyable read. It is I think it was developed from Wattpad. Oh, it's a fake dating. That was the thing that got me. It was a fake dating. Basically, this girl is very cynical about love, and she says something in class one day, and a girl comes up to her and tells her that the only reason she feels that way is because she's never had a boyfriend. And of course, like, the most popular guy in school comes up, and he was like, oh no, we've been dating for forever. And basically, they end up in this fake relationship together in order to achieve some ends, you know, so she doesn't look like a loser, and so he can get people off his backs about dating people. So they get into this agreement, and of course there's other things going on. They have family issues that they're trying to work through, and then you know, they become closer over time, and it was just a really cute read, really fun. Not anything super memorable, but it flew by. I gave it a 3.5. Then we have, okay, I did it, guys, I did it. I finally went and finished the Dark Days Club series, or Lady Helen series, and I read the Dark Days Deceit. I started this and I was like, man, I don't remember any of these characters, but it was okay. It worked out in the end. This is an 1800s demon hunter book. I don't know why you guys continue to sleep on it when I say those words together, because those are the best things together ever. Just saying. You guys like Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell? Well, I'm pretty sure they were made based off of these characters because they just do it better, okay? So Lady Helen, her parents have died, and she's living with her aunt and uncle, and of course they're very prim and proper in society, and they want to marry her off, and Lord Carlston comes into play, and everyone's like, you need to avoid him, but of course he's like a lord, so they have to, you know, interact with him, but at the same time they're like, avoid him. He murdered his wife. So you already know he a bad boy in the 1800s context. How else can you be a bad boy? So they're like, you know, you need to avoid him. However, we find out that Lord Carlston is a demon hunter, and Lady Helen is also going to be a demon hunter, so he has to train her. Therefore, she has to spend a lot of time with him. But also, she needs to marry an acceptable man, and things are a mess, and they're just trying to work through life together, and also fight demons. It's so good, guys. It's so good. I didn't see any of the things coming in this. Like, I was on edge through this. Now, the first one I will say is slow, and it's very much about the world. There's a lot of dumping of information. The second one is all action. This one is a mixture of like slow pace, things going on, and action. So this was the perfect mixture of both of the first 2 books. So this was so good. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I love this series so much. So then I did a little 24-hour readathon with Amanda and Vanessa, and we hosted it on Twitter, and a few of you joined along, which was really fun. And one of the things that I ended up reading, just a really quick read, go away. Stop looking at me. One of the things that I read, just a really quick read to do within that 24 hours, was Kim Reaper Volume 1, and this is about a girl who has a crush on another girl, which she doesn't know is a Grim Reaper, and she accidentally gets sucked into the portal that Kim uses to go and reap something, and she ends up finding out, of course, about Kim Reaper. But all of that being said, some repercussions happens, and there's adventures and all kinds of stuff, and this was okay. It was nice, it was fun, but for the most part I didn't really care for the characters. I honestly thought the relationship aspect of this was not very convincing. It wasn't very good. A little worried about that, but overall it was okay. I don't think I'm going to be continuing on. I don't need to know any more about these characters or the story, honestly. I ended up giving this a 3. Again, nothing wrong with it, just not something that I enjoyed that much. Then we have Time of Our Lives. This was one of my most highly anticipated releases for this year. This is by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca, and I just love their other books so very much. And I was very excited about this because they said it was quite personal to them. Talked more about this in my blog and some of the things going on with it. But basically, this is about two characters. He doesn't want to go to college because his mom has early onset Alzheimer's, and basically he's being forced to go toward these colleges. However, she wants to get away from her very overbearing family and go to college. So they end up running into each other on this college tour, and of course spending more time together on this college tour. And even though they want very different things, they find out that they're not so different after all. That being said, there was a lot of things in this that I really didn't like. The writing is fantastic. I love the characters. The problem is that immediately going into this, she has a boyfriend, which she takes with her, and I already didn't like that. I don't like that aspect, and I do feel like there was some emotional cheating involved in this. Continuing on, there's also a road trip aspect of this. I don't like road trip books. I've never liked a road trip book. I don't know what it is about road trip books. I don't like them. The chemistry between the characters didn't feel very authentic to me. I didn't care for it. I just didn't believe it. It was just whatever. I will say the ending of this I felt was very realistic. I thought this handled a lot of topics around college very well. Just kind of balancing, you know, do I want to go to college? Where do I want to go to college? What's life going to be like? Things like that. So I thought it dealt with a lot of questions around college really well. Probably would have liked this a lot more, you know, 10 years ago. It was okay. The writing's okay. It just honestly just wasn't my cup of tea. I ended up giving this a 3 stars. Again, nothing really wrong with it. Just not for me. Not for me. Really upsetting because I really wanted to love this. Okay, they're putting out an adult book next year. Very intrigued about that. We have Catherine House. Now this does come out in May, so keep your eyes out for it, but this kind of has a very dark academy feel to it. I also talked about more about this in the 24-hour readathon vlog that I did. Catherine House is essentially kind of like this prestigious academy. You have to be accepted in, and at first I thought it was going to be a few people, but there's actually a decent amount of people at this school. Thing is, you have to give 3 years of your life to Catherine House, and you can have no contact with the outside world, essentially. So you're just stuck with whoever's there. Now, our main character gets in, and you find out, you know, she kind of has a dark past. She's running from something. She ends up at Catherine House, and, you know, she finds out that there's some secrets to Catherine House. Like, there's a lot of mystery surrounding it, and she kind of is intrigued, like, what's happening here? Of course, it has some dark things going on. Go through her 3 years at the school, and it's kind of the struggles that she goes through, but also very much a, like, awakening. She's very cold and distant at the beginning of this, to the point where I was like, I don't know if I can get into this if she's going to be this way, like, the whole time. I just don't like it, and we definitely see her opening up more and becoming more of herself as the story progresses. This is very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of like a psychological type thing, because you're wondering all these things. There's definitely a scientific underlying element going on here, and you're questioning a lot of things. There's a lot of life questions, and she just is very much like, I sleep with whoever I want, I do whatever I want. There's a lot of drinking in this, but there was so many things that just gripped me. It was so dark and mysterious, and I had to know. And I could not stop thinking about this book when I finished it. I loved it. I love these characters in the end. I love the mystery. I love the thing that was revealed. It was nuts. The only thing that ended up knocking this down for me is that there is a character that she interacts with who is kind of the person who opens up. It's the first person that she really starts reacting emotionally to, and something happens between them. Wasn't much discussion about how she felt about this thing that had happened. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, that, darn. And I was just like, I feel like there should have been a little more said about that. I think that we were led along the way to believe it was going to happen, but it was still like terrible when it did. And I don't know, I just wanted a little more discussion on that. I probably would have cried. Overall, I absolutely love this. Apparently it's going to be a TV show. I couldn't find any more news on that, who's making it or what's happening, anything regarding it, but I think it's going to be really, really good. It's so good, guys. If you liked Ninth House, or if you liked the dark aspects of Ninth House, but not so much the pretentious ass writing, you might like this better. This is so good. This is like if We Were Villains in Ninth House meets People Like Us, like combined. So good. So good. I give it a 4.5. The last thing, now I technically finished this in May, but I did all the reading in April. Pretty much all the reading in April, but that is House of Earth and Blood, or Bone, or something. I don't know. House of Earth and Blood. I've just been calling it Crescent City. This felt like it took me 10 years to read. I swear, this took like my whole life to read. And I will say, this section of the book, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. This section of the book was quite frankly like the best thing I've ever read. So I was blown away. Like, I sobbed so many times. Like, people were talking about how they were crying, and I was like, this much through it, and I was like, I don't see it, y'all lying. I'm sorry I doubted y'all, because I also sobbed my eyes out. I didn't even realize I had come to love some of these characters so much, okay? I don't even know, like, it's Sarah J. Maas's writing is so addicting, and she just makes me feel a way about characters. I loved it. I feel like I'm channeling a little bit of Bryce today. So if you don't know what this is about, I don't know where you've been, but this follows Bryce, and basically she's a half human, half fae. This is very much a much more modern fantasy world. It's a city setting, but something has happened and her best friend is murdered, and it's a few years later, and the person is behind bars, but the murders start up again. So she is placed with this angel, a fallen angel, in order to protect her while she is solving this case. They're on this case together. And of course things happen from there. It's a little steamy, just a little steamy. I swear, like not a lot of, just a little steamy. That was the biggest upset of all. This has so many other things going on. There's all these underlying things to the mystery. Like you think it's just a murder, and then all this other stuff, other stuff is going on, and there's all these other characters and all these beings, and it was just so much, like it was a little too much at times, but still, if you can make it through those first 600 pages, the last 100 are just fantastic. I think I'm going to give it a 4.5. I'm unsure about the rating still, because the last part is what's fresh in my mind, and like that's a 10 out of 10 there. But it's the rest that I have to remember. And it also did fall into a mystery cliche, which I kind of had a feeling halfway through. I was like, I'm really nervous. Maybe it's because I read more mystery, but I just was like, you know, I have a feeling this is going to happen. And it did, and it was a cliche, but the reveal of it didn't matter, because like so many other things were happening, and it was so climactic and so crazy, and it was so good. It was so good. Yeah, another one to add to the tabbed collection. So those are all the books that I read in April / few days in May. No big deal. You know what you guys read in April? I hope that you guys have liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to see future videos from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next one. Bye.